Well, it means anything. It looks like y'all know what you're doing. And that's really the most important part, right?
Right.
Just look like you know what you're doing.
Unless you're a musician, because then you get up there. And,
Yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah, you can't fake it.
No.
Yeah, then they can hear if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
And we've all seen that, I think,
Right.
at some point.
I did I was on one of Cody Johnson's songs, Cowboy Scale of 1 to 10.
What do you mean you were on it?
Like I had a part. Me, Ned Ledoux, Red
Oh, that's right.
Steagle.
Yes.
And
Blanked out there.
yeah, I was like singing on it. But it was more of a talking part. And then I was like Josh Serrato, the bass player for everybody. He was recording it for me at Melody Mountain, and I was like, well, let me record the chorus. And so I recorded it, and it was so bad. It was so bad.
You gave it your all, right?
No, I don't think. But I'm in the booth and I'm listening to myself back, and then we listened to it, and it was so terrible. There's no risk of me asking you for a spot at Musicfest as a musician.
Well, I'll take it as kind of like you're rolling down the road and you got your favorite song on, and you're singing as loud as you can, and then all of a sudden the radio goes out and you hear yourself. You're like, oh my God, how bad is that?
That's exactly what it was like. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, there's no risk of me. Like I will go to Musicfest as a fan, and that's it.
Well, we may get you up on the stage. They've I've gotten up on this. Hey, come on up, and I'm like, yeah, you want me to sing to this? But I know that the sound guy has on the soundboard. He knows that he can take me out of there, but I can go through make it look like I'm singing along and having fun. So that's the best part, But if you're being recorded and you know it, that's a game changer. So I'm not signing up for that either.
There's so many shows at Musicfest. I'm sure you get asked every night.
No, I don't get asked. Thank God. No, I don't get asked. I don't want to be part of that. As you know, those guys are extremely talented and they're good at what they do. But when they get those sing-alongs, that's where it's fun, and it's fun to get up there and put your arms around each other and sing the hit song.
They just I think they're having a door slamming contest behind us. Can you hear that? Yeah. Well, maybe they're done. Do you want one of these?
Sure.
These are just energy drinks. They've got different flavors. So called Ranch Fuel, but
I've seen Ranch Fuel.
I like to offer them to the guests.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'll let you pick. That's the best one.
Well, I
was hoping you wouldn't pick that one.
You only bring one flavor of each. That's it.
I should have brought more. Yeah, that's what I should have done if I was really caring. Bring 2 of them.
That's good.
How many years now? Musicfest?
This is 40.
40. And then registration.
We skipped that 1 year, of course.
Right. Dadgummit.
So,
But registration opens this week, doesn't it?
Yeah, we did what we call the pre-reservations happens, and then we open up on the 27th at 10 o'clock, and it's a pretty big deal.
And then it's also, well, this year hasn't happened yet, but for the last 39 years, you sell out.
Actually, for the last 23 years.
Okay.
It was about 23 years ago. It just started really.
Oh, so the first few years it was, you had to.
Yeah. We were, well, and I have to say the Texas music, where it is right now, with the young guys or the guys, they were just coming through the Texas music. It started around 25, 28 years ago. And then when that took off, now I had already been doing Texas music from back in the early 90s, late 80s, I guess, with Robert Earl and Jack Ingram and, of course, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard. I've got really fortunate to get to do those shows back in the day. And then when this new scene started to show up and I started to meet some of these guys, and they're really good guys. The music stands on its own, but getting to know the guys behind the scenes. A lot of times I would do shows and I didn't want to get to know the artists, especially your heroes,
Yeah.
Because you're afraid that might ruin that song. And
right.
We've all had that happen if you get to meet some of them. But majority, when I met this crew, I was like, man, these are some good people I want to be around. And just, and they were all starting young, and the industry was not paying attention to them because they weren't playing the game, the corporate game of like, when you get in the corporate thing, hey, here's what song we want you to sing. Here's how you want you to dress. And here's how, what you want you to write about or whatever. And these guys weren't playing that. I'm like, ooh, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of doing my own thing too. And I was like, I didn't follow the corporate model, but I'm just going to do
When you say you were doing those shows, like back in the, Jack Ingram days and Robert Earl, like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? You're putting on shows?
Yeah, producing shows and
Even outside of Musicfest?
Oh yeah. I would do what we call one-offs, I guess, and mostly in college towns. I was doing a lot of college stuff, or whether it's in Austin, College Station, or San Marcos, or Waco, and I do these one-off deals, and some of these artists that nobody knew, but I knew how to promote. I knew how to put up flyers on campuses. That was before technology, so
Right.
I'm the flyer guru guy. That if you're sitting in a class, you're going to see an advertisement.
Dang. College Station, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Has it always been in Texas?
I did shows in Louisiana, Oklahoma. Taking mostly these guys and helping them out. I was my wife's from South Louisiana, so we had friends in Lafayette, and I said, "Well, hey, these guys are heading east, and I'll do a show in Lafayette." That was a blast. Now with all those Cajuns,
Yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, and the bars don't close till like 5 a.m. there.
I think
right?
they close whenever they want them to close.
Yeah,
it was an interesting time because I remember one show we were doing. I forgot that it was right on the strip, right next to USL. That was the old name of the school and or the university, and it's UL now. But I was watching the young kids getting drinks at the bar. I said, "Didn't they just pass a law that's 21 and up?" It says, "Yeah." It says you can't serve somebody 21 and you can't serve anybody under 21, but you can give it to somebody that's 21 and they can hand it to that person that's underage. I was like, I said, "You guys always, y'all are pretty creative." And I think they got away with it for a little while, but they do their own thing down there.
Yeah, they do in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was in the southern region for college rodeo. We'd go down to Lake Charles and, and that was really the main spot for college rodeo that I can remember. But I'd go to some of those
they had a rodeo school there at Lake Charles. That was,
yeah.
I'm talking about a good,
really good program. Yeah. There's a little coliseum where they'd also have a pro rodeo there. But anyway, I know the hair and the sunnies makes somebody think that I'm going to stay out all night, but I like to be in bed way before those bars close. And that's kind of how I am at Musicfest when talking to the girls whenever they set up the MCs and I'm looking at those late shows. I'm like, y'all got any afternoon spots you need?
Yeah, but so you got to sometimes, that's when the musicians start to wake up.
For sure.
And it's, you're kind of missing something when you and listen, I'm with you, but after midnight, that's when all the jams go on and all the condos and all that.
No, you're right.
A lot of fun.
And I like to have one of those nights where you stay up and somebody, visit with everybody, because that's when the musicians are acclimated to coming alive. But I'm just saying tonight, we're in Waco, by the way, and I'm not mad that Shane is going on at 6:45 p.m. I'm going to stick around for Ragweed and Turnpike. Don't get me wrong, but knowing that I don't have to stay up till 1:30 in the morning, like if I choose to go to bed, I have that freedom. That's what I like.
Good point. I'm with you.
If I end up staying up late, that's fine. But
I go. You
got to stay up though, I guess.
No, I don't have to, but I do the same thing with that intention, knowing I can sneak out at any time. But you get in those jams, I'm like, I'm not going to miss this minute. I said, I've got 5 days up here, and I don't want to miss.
Oh, a jam in a good way.
A jam, yeah, a good jam.
Yeah,
not,
good jam.
Not the jam out there on the highway.
Yeah. We're in a jam. Get over here.
Yeah,
we need you, John. Come put this fire out.
You just walk down but you walk down the hallway in any hotel, and all of a sudden you hear music, and the doors kind of open. You stick your head in, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh man, this is cool."
You say that like that applies to anyone, but you're the godfather on that mountain. Come Musicfest for those 5 days, like everybody. I mean, it's like we're watching Cheers, and you walk in, "Hey, Norm," you get this. I'm surprised you're not just carried everywhere.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that guy, but I appreciate what you're saying. But I try to stay incognito and sneak in the back to watch the show. I'm as big a fan as everybody else.
And every time you do, the musician will stop and say, "Everybody, give it up for Mr. John Dickson." Kind of like and out cold, you know, they just hold what was the guy's name that started the mountain? You know what I mean? Like they got the statue of him, you know, everybody like talks about him like he's a legend. That's how people talk about John Dickson
Jeez.
at Musicfest.
Yeah.
But I think it's because everybody respects that you put together this. Listening to the musicians talk about it, it seems like they really like it because when they play a festival, they most of the time, like let's say they don't get to see each other.
Yeah.
You know, like Shane Smith play on Friday in College Station and Co Wetzel on a Saturday.
Right.
And so it's cool that they both played in the same spot, but different nights doesn't matter. And so if everybody goes to a festival and everybody's playing 2 or 3 shows in 4 days, well, they get to hang out literally with, you know, in each other's camps. And so it seems like you've created this culture within those 5 days among the musicians. And then, you know, you're walking down the hallway as a listener or a fan, and you get to run into, you know, Corey Morrow.
Well, backing up when I first got around this scene, I just saw how supportive they were of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just in friendships, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of competition, but these guys would bring each other on the stage. They may have the biggest moment. You know, I remember when Pat Green was at the Houston Rodeo, the Houston Livestock Show Rodeo, and brought out Django Walker to sing a song with him. I'm like, okay, Pat's got 33 minutes on that stage, and he brought Django up for 6 minutes.
Dang.
And I was like, you know, that's what this is all about.
Right. Yeah. That's
And that's what they all do. And they help each other out. And I just thought, you know, I want to be involved with that and get to know them. And, you know, they're just good people.
Van Wilder. Y'all seen that movie? That's who John Dickson is on the mountain. Van Wilder. He's the guy that throws all the parties at the college town.
Well, I did do that.
Ryan Reynolds.
I did.
It's a great movie. Yeah. But so what other shows do you put on now these days outside of Musicfest?
Well, we do now it's called the Big Beach Fest in Costa Rica. It was the Big Cabo Fest. We were in Cabo for 5 years, and that's with Roger Krager and Kevin Fowler, and then, you know, all the other artists we bring in, and, you know, just a beach getaway deal, but really cool.
When is that?
We usually do that in June. So again, we're moving to Costa Rica this year. We hadn't been to Costa Rica with this festival, but I used to do tours through Costa Rica with groups back in the 90s, and now it's like, hey, we got to take this group down there, and that's gonna be a big trip.
You used to do what in Costa Rica?
Well, I used to take groups down to Costa Rica back in the day, and back then.
What do you mean? Like just a group of friends? Or like put on a show?
Well, if they weren't friends, they were by the time we were finished. I mean, it was, you know, we weren't doing shows. I was taking 100, 200 people. And, you know, we'd fly into San Jose, which was on the airport then. And then you had to get on this rickety bus and go across the mountains. And that's not the case anymore. Now you've got an airport that's on the Pacific side. So it's easy to get to these great beach towns and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
resorts.
You're definitely Van Wilder. That's for sure. Like, oh yeah, I remember. I spent 2 years in Costa Rica. Let's go put on a festival down there.
Well, I would, after the group left, I would wave them off the airport. I'd stay down for a couple of months with my backpack, and that was
That's what I'm talking about.
That was pre-Robin and kids, so I would stay down there and just go to
I was backpacking in Costa Rica. I saw this awesome beach. Now I'm going to put on a music festival there.
Well, yeah, it's a big change because the beach where we're going, I camped out on for like 3 weeks at one time. You know, so yeah, now there's a resort there, and I'm going to go hang out and bring 1,000 people this time.
I've always said that my ideal retirement is I still work, hopefully around cows in some shape, form, or fashion. But 2 weeks in the winter, I go skiing. 2 weeks in the summer, I go to a beach. Yeah. That to me is an ideal retirement. And so
that's pretty good.
Sounds like you've got a similar setup, except you're going to these places to make money and have a good time. That's what I like. You've turned it into this business. You've created an atmosphere where everyone can enjoy themselves. And then, you also get to hang out in a cool spot.
Well, what you just described, that's what I started out with when I first started. I like beaches and I like skiing. So let's see if I can figure out how to make a living off this. And that wasn't the first intention. My first intention was just in college and said, hey, let's get a group of friends together. And this is this one opportunity in life where we're not really have to be responsible in life. Let's go somewhere. And, you know, back then you did it for, you know, it wasn't about money or anything like that, but you just to get everybody together. I remember one of the professors, I was sitting out in the middle of the quad selling trips, promoting them and whatever. And the professor comes up and says, "Hey, I think you figured out what you're going to do the rest of your life." I said, "Oh no, I'm just having fun." And 45 years later, because I started, Musicfest was started in 1986. So that was around 82 when I first started getting people together to have fun and stuff. So.
Dang, that sounds like my YouTube journey. Like I was just like on a much smaller scale than what you've created, but I was like just having fun after the work was done, and then like one video led to another.
Well, I'm trying to, figure out your fun because I was watching a catching maverick cattle in Arizona. By the way,
that was fun.
One of my favorite.
Thank you.
I can watch that all day long.
Thank you.
And it reminds me of a Andy Adams' Log of a Cowboy, a good old book from a guy that, back in the 1800s. But I was like, y'all crazy.
Well,
that's good stuff.
Thank you. It was very dangerous.
Yes.
And I got real offended at a guy the other day. He commented online. I don't know if you saw the recent videos where I'm riding my bull with a saddle. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh my gosh. I'll show you that afterwards. But I have this bucking bull that I can put a saddle on and I ride him around. I started in the arena.
Of course you can.
Well, then, like, I put a side pull on him like a hackamore, and then like my stock saddle, like my ranching saddle on his back. And so anyways, I was like, I want to see if I can gather some cows on him. So I did that, and it kind of worked out. And then I was like, now I want to gather these bucking bulls, which a bucking bull gathering other bucking bulls, they're going to fight.
Yeah.
So a little dangerous, but to me, that sounds very interesting. Like, I want to see if I can get that done. Well, anyways, I did it. I got chased. I got hooked, but I came out unscathed. And this guy commented on there like, this is what happens when you do things for views. And I was like, no. No. This is something I totally would have done with or without the camera.
Yep.
I just happened to, have a camera now for my job. And it's same thing with catching mavericks. Like, that's something, those guys are doing that without cameras. I would have done the same thing without a camera. I just happen to be a YouTuber now, and I get to benefit. So, like, I mean, you love skiing, you love going to the and you love going to the beach. Now you've turned it into a job. And anyhow, I just that's my side note on getting to do what you love for a job.
I would have never questioned that you were getting on the back of a bucking bull for views. No,
Yeah.
There's no doubt. After watching the Maverick, chase these Maverick cattle, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it's real work. It's a real deal. And I thought it was, I thought that was incredible. And the young guys and the cowboys on that what brought me back to the Andy Adams. Cause I know that they were, Andy Adams was, back in the 1800s, and he wrote about going and catching the Maverick cattle down in South Texas. And I thought about all the cactus and everything y'all were dealing with. And of course they didn't have trucks and stuff, which y'all did, which that was also scary as hell watching that deal with y'all with those trucks and I was like, oh geez, it puts you on edge. It's a good one. Man. It's a good one.
No, I appreciate it. It's it's the longest YouTube video I've made outside of podcasts, and
it's incredible.
It was so fun, and
was it fun?
It was so fun. It's just as a cowboy, if there's a situation you can get into and then get out unscathed, like it's just like a riding a bucking horse. Yep. There's that moment when the gate opens. Well, out there, that moment is right when you take off to chase the maverick. And there's you got to rope them and
tipping horns out in the middle of the pasture and up against a cactus, like, okay, guys, tipping horns in a good shoot is
one thing, right?
One thing, but
what was so crazy to me, I caught 2 mid-sized cows. I caught 2 6-weight yearlings. And then I caught 1 big bull, but he was a muley. And those were all just like normal interactions with cattle, in my opinion, like compared to everywhere else.
Yeah.
But those guys, the way they would catch, imagine a bucking bull, 1,600-pound bucking bull with horns that are not tipped. Right. And like the way that those guys would bail after one of those, rope them, handle their rope, handle their horse, not let their horse get gored.
Yeah.
Get that bull down on the ground, then tie it down like it's a calf.
Yeah.
That was what was so crazy.
I was scratching my head watching this stuff. I'm like, y'all, they made it kind of look, I don't want to say easy, but I was like,
effortless.
This is crazy.
Effortless.
The power of what they were doing, the animal that they were taking. I'm like, I was scratching my head, but I was like, these are real cowboys,
Yeah.
and that's what they do. And it was interesting to see the young kids that were in there and so forth.
Oh,
You
yeah.
did a great job of interviewing everybody, and of course, your wit and stuff that just added to it. But I was like, man, he got in the middle of this stuff.
No, I appreciate
that
it.
was the real deal. That was like
like
cowboy stuff.
I appreciate
The real
it.
stuff.
I like doing things. I tell Donnie, like, I know it's going to be a good video when I get nervous.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just,
Yeah.
as a cowboy, I like those moments. That's what I like about bucking horses. Like, there's those moments where, like, whew, you know, like you
Sure.
gotta show up mentally.
So you like the adrenaline. That's
Very
obvious.
much.
Yeah.
And I can see, you know, I don't know, that makes me think about getting on the mountain at Musicfest, like on my snowboard. I'm pretty not very good on a snowboard, so it's easy to get me nervous. But anymore these days, I'm more of a light blue
But
kind
do you
of.
push it at times? Do you
At
see a
sometimes.
jump and a rock and go hit it? Launch yourself?
In the last few years, like in the last 7 years, I've had 5 surgeries. And so before those surgeries started to come on, yes, I'm pushing it. Let's find a jump. Now, like, guys, I'm just going to cruise.
Yeah.
I might get like, you know, I don't know, this much air, but I'm not trying to go to the X Games in this.
Yeah.
I'll pick my dangerous moments and
it's fun to cruise this mountain. And one thing I've always tell everybody, I said, don't take it for granted. You go up to a 10,000 foot and you're looking at the world from the top of a mountain. That hadn't always been the case. I mean, humans haven't been doing that for a long time.
Right.
And I was like, I'll go ski with my family. I said, okay, everybody stop. Okay, here's Dad. I said, yeah, we got just stop and look. Take this in. Now let's go cruise, but you got to, it's really incredible. But yeah, cruising those mountains up there is just, man, that's just heaven.
What about who you were talking about earlier? I had this question and then it left me and just came back. But talking about musicians that have been just crazy good people that have been fun to interact with. Who, looking back, have you become great friends with that you never would have expected?
Oh, never expected.
You kind of didn't see it coming, maybe, and then all of a sudden, like,
friend. When you say friends, it's somebody you hang out with every afternoon or every once in a while. But the people I've connected with, one was Robert Earl Keen back in the early days, because I really have he's really artsy guy and really good guy, but really attentive to his business and how he positions himself and so forth. And as in a friendship, I would say, yeah, we're friends, but I was like, I didn't know we were connected because it was real business. But, he calls me, I don't know, I guess I forgot, in the mid 2000s or something. He says, hey, we're going to play Steamboat, play Musicfest. I said, yeah. He says, why don't you record it? I said, well, we'll record it. He says, no, why don't you release it? Put it on an album and release it. Put it on your record label. I didn't want to, he kind of took me back. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't have a record label. But, and I hung up the phone and I started thinking about that. And I was like, he's in between record labels or whatever. He didn't have a record label at the time. And I just thought it was a real honor for him to ask me to do that. So then I started calling all the hip, record labels at the time. I said, hey, I need some help here. Y'all want to do this? And I said, send me a contract. And I'm like, and they send me these contracts of what they want to sign with me and the artist. I'm like, I said, who signs this? I said, this is, you take everything. And this is, it was just so bizarre. I don't know, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but
no, it's interesting.
But I finally just went, you know what? And I went through 3 or 4 record labels that I'm like, no, this is not going to happen. I said, you got to be fair to the artist, to the whole thing to where it makes sense. So I started my own record label, Right Avenue Records. And I gave it to Robert and his people and then all the other artists that were performing on it. I said, hey, are y'all good with this? He said, yeah, this is great. So back to the friendship deal, I really appreciate him trusting me with that. And that was really an honor because he could have anybody do this thing. So we did that Undone CD or album. And, it's still played on all the formats out there. It's a great deal because it was very raw. And one thing I did, I said, I want to make this feel live. And we recorded in the ballroom up there in Steamboat. And I said, we're not going to do overdubs. We're not going to doctor this or do anything. I said, live is live.
Who all's on it?
Oh, geez, that's 27 artists,
Dang.
27 songs. So I think it's about 22 artists. So I didn't hold back. Anybody that wanted to be a part of it, we come. That was playing, performing at Musicfest. So it was like the who's who of Texas music. It was really just nonstop. And some of my favorite songs. And I've always been a fan of Robert Earl Keen's songs, but hearing it from some of the young guys and hearing their versions of it, I got to say, some of them connected with me even more. I mean, Robert's one of the best writers there is. And so it was really just an incredible experience. But as in a friendship, that was it. I mean, tonight we're going to go see Crossing Ragweed and Wade Bowen, and Wade's an incredible guy, and so is Cody Canada and all the Ragweed boys. We got to work with them when they first hit Texas. I found them in a little bar on 6th Street in Austin. Like, oh, I want to do some shows with these guys, but and it's just yeah, we used to have parties at our house at our barn on Sundays when everybody was after they're finished touring. They showed up at Dickson's house and the barn, and of course that's when the party would go on. And
Do you feel like you? I mean, I feel like you do, but do you feel like you played a role in fostering the growth of Texas country?
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was doing a music series on 6th Street in Austin, a place called Hang 'em High Saloon, held a little bit over 1,000 people, and it was really a weird time. It's 1996, and I'm putting Willie Nelson in there, Merle Haggard, John Conley, Jerry Jeff Walker, in a small bar because nobody was paying attention to this music, and I couldn't believe it. But and this Texas music was starting to surface, and Corey Morrow was playing playing at a piano bar, not playing piano. He was just playing, some of his songs. And I happened upon him. I said, I don't know you, but hey, Corey, you've got some pretty good tunes here. I said, how about coming down and open up for Willie and these guys? And he says, I said, do you have a band? He goes, no. I said, well, get one. So I feel like that was kind of intro. And so then he brought in Pat Green and Roger Craig, Dub Miller, and all these guys started coming in and doing, opening up for some of these legends in my view. And it's a small room, we were selling, I think for Willie Nelson, it was a $20 ticket to go see him it was really incredible. But I brought the young guys in, and then we moved that to College Station. And I remember I went to the radio station, KRA, and I said, hey, I'm going to have this music series at this bar. And here's the deal. Y'all can be the presenting station, but you're going to have to spend each artist so many times a week on your stations. Well, we don't know these artists. I said, well, you're getting ready to, but if you want to own this and be part of it. And so it was kind of like, get these artists on the air. And I said, you have to do a minimum of maybe 30 spins a week. And it just, and it just caught on.
Yeah, because back then the radio was the thing.
That was
the only thing.
That was it. And they were in a lot of, but the independent stations were more open to that. There were some commercial stations that you weren't going to get. They weren't going to play that game. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, it was a huge hit.
Yeah, it's crazy too that thinking about a lot of artists will come through Musicfest and then get too big for it. That's not uncommon. Like it seems like every year there's an artist that was there the year before and they're just either too busy or too expensive or too. And I think there's something to that it's wild that these guys are. It's a stopping point and a check mark next to a Texas country artist's name. I think
Musicfest. Everybody said, well, it's a Texas festival, and it is. But there's people that come in from all over the nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, every state we've tracked it. They come in from and international guests. So it's kind of a gathering. And a lot of people have connections to Texas, whether they used to live in Texas and moved to Chicago or whatever else, but they come back and it's an annual reunion. But, I know that, and the thing is, a lot of people that, you're taking 6 days to go on vacation and go hear music. These people listen to music. Mm-hmm. And so for these younger artists to be able to get in front of that crowd and to be around the veteran artists and stuff like that, mm-hmm. There is something to be said. If you could pull it off there at Musicfest and get people's attention, that's a good place to be. But it is, to your point, I can't tell you how gratifying it is for me to see an artist, I've had it starting at open mic, and 6 years later they're headlining the tent or the outdoor stage. Mm-hmm. And then the next show is I'll bring up the Houston Livestock Show Rodeo again, and they're playing in front of 70,000 people,
Mhm.
and I'm so happy to see that. I mean,
Right.
that's just and the fact that had a small part to do with that festival did, and because I think a lot of people pay attention to Music Fest.
I just think it's I don't want to try to I don't want to sound like I'm trying to gatekeep anybody because but like Shane Smith, for example, my interns, like, I was like, you guys, when they first show up, the other interns would tell a new one, like, hey, yeah, if you're in the truck with Dale, get ready to, like, that's going to be on repeat. You're going to hear the same,
Good
19 Shane Smith songs.
Yeah.
But my point is just like they, I was thinking, like, man, the world is not giving this guy the respect. And he and I became friends, right before my first signing with Musicfest. And so I'm like, dang, I can't believe that I'm even allowed to introduce this guy. And then all of a sudden, he gets on Yellowstone, and the whole world is, and that even propelled him in even more. And to me, I was like, okay, it's about time. All you guys, have now been introduced to. But Coetzel, Cody Johnson, is Charlie Crockett coming back?
Not this year.
Yeah,
not this
yeah.
year.
I mean,
But
Charlie's
played
been
a
there
few times. Yeah.
Now Zach Top has been around,
yeah.
and you've just got all these guys that this is a stop for. And we keep calling it Texas country, but I wasn't even thinking of specifically Texas. It was just, but what?
Well, I'll say this to your point. They're not doing it the traditional way. And it's not like, as in getting their music out in front of everybody. They're doing it one artist at a time or one fan at a time. And, and then for Yellowstone to come around, I'll tell you this, that did make a change. I'm sitting back, and Ryan Bingham had played Music Fest for, heck, I don't know, 10 years, acoustic or whatever. And I'm sitting back with Robin, we're sitting there watching. And this is Yellowstone. I'm loving it. And all of a sudden he walks out on the set, and I'm like,
yep, there he goes.
What the heck? And then, and I contacted Ryan after. I said, they didn't even write a part for you. That's you. You're playing yourself.
Right.
Because he made some little liners. I'm like, yeah, that's what he says.
Right.
And of course they did create a character around him, but it was like, okay, this is cool. And then all of a sudden you start hearing the soundtracks. And when I heard Shane, I forgot that in the moment, I think it was Taylor Sheridan was driving the truck. Who was driving the truck?
Yep.
And he played that. And I'm like, and mentions Shane Smith and the whatever he said. I think he went pretty wild with it. I was like, this is it. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And I felt so happy for Shane. I found it. First time I saw him I was at a dove hunt, and he's playing around a campfire. And I'm like, oh, you're good. You need to come up to this festival. And, but it's just fun to see those guys do it that. But that's the non-traditional way. They didn't do it through the radio stations or the Nashville, and nothing against Nashville, but that engine, that machine, they did it on their own, one fan at a time, and through good music. I mean, just real genuine music. That's the key.
Do you have any go-to, when you're maybe talking to some family or somebody that's not being like stories that come to mind? I mean, I can only imagine some of the stuff that you've.
What are you talking about? At the festival?
Just at Musicfest, like a story from Musicfest that just like wild things that happen.
Well, there's some wild stuff. There's some I can't say, but I mean, there's been some really moving moments, that are really good. But one of my favorite ones is Guy Clark playing up there, and Guy Clark is one of the most incredible writers and biggest influence on this Texas scene. And we had Guy up there. We're doing a tribute to him and to his music. And it's we do that annual tribute where the Musicfest musicians come out and play their favorite song that person penned, while that person's sitting, on the front row of the deal, and they're singing it, and telling a story behind it. And then of course, Guy Clark gets up there and plays some of his songs, and then because that was a really special event for those guys, and so obviously there's a party afterwards. Now, Guy, we didn't see Guy at the party, but there was a party that went on till 5 or 6 o'clock. This is a few years ago, but and I was like, I left that party at I think about 5:30, 6 o'clock because I had to be at work about 7:30. And the phone rings at 7 o'clock, and I've got to answer the phone. I mean, it's you don't know what's going on. And he said, "Hey, John, this is Guy. This is I just want to tell you." I said, "Guy," I said, "and I've got a buddy named Guy." I said, "Guy," I said, "Listen, I'm a steamboat. I'm working." I said, "Click." Hung up. Phone rings again. He says, "John, this is Guy." And I said, "Guy," I said, "Really?" I said, "I can't take this call." I said, "I just got to bed. I've got to get up and go to work here." She says, "John, this is Guy Clark." I'm like, "Oh, this is Guy Clark." And I just went silent. And he just said, she said, "I want to let you know that that was one of the most special events I've ever been to in my life."
Yeah.
And I just, Robin's sitting there looking at me. She thought something was really wrong. And I was just like, deer in headlights, like, Guy Clark's telling me that. And what it is, that was a compliment to the musicians. I was
Mhm.
glad to be able to put that together, but he was complimenting what a special evening it was and
Right.
how cool it was. So that was one of the, I said, and I just said, thank you. What do you say to that guy? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a legend and incredible. God bless him. He's gone now, but what a, what an
Yeah, there's a
incredible
lot
day.
of tributes out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has Todd Snyder ever been around there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had heard.
Todd, we were in San Marcos at the same time, and
Mm.
I lived in the rugby house, I guess, is where everybody hung out, and he slept on our couch a lot.
What does he call it? The sofa circuit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he definitely. We had the house where everybody kind of hung out. He would strum the guitar in the campfire in the backyard, and
Yeah.
neighbors knew us pretty well,
Yeah.
or they knew our music pretty well.
Did he always tell a lot of stories on stage?
I went to his first when he recorded his first album at Cheatham Street, and he's always a storyteller, and,
Is
and
he?
he had a little, just his wit and funny
Right.
songs, and
The way he would word the
yeah.
stories would just be like, man,
Yeah.
that's a normal story
Mhm,
until you went to tell it,
mhm.
and then just, yeah.
He would have you laughing
Right.
around the fireplace. It was, and you're like, where's this guy come from?
Yeah, you're it's almost like a mix, like you're hiring a comedian and a
Yeah.
musician. Yeah. Who
Very-
else is like that around there? You think of anybody?
There's a lot of musicians that are really funny. You may not see it on the stage. I'll tell you who's funny is Cody Canada. We're talking about Cody. He's funny. Well, his dad, Ronnie, is just a character.
Yeah.
And you get Cody going. He may not do it on stage, but he's funny. But
Right.
there's a lot of those guys that are really, they got some good wit, and of course they're creative. But
Uh-huh.
I'd give Cody. You now you put me on the spot because there's quite a few others, and I should.
Yeah,
think
Wade's
about.
pretty funny too. You've said
Wade's
he's playing
hilarious.
tonight. He's funny.
Well, Wade and
Yeah.
Randy. I mean, look at their Home on Beer.
Right.
Listen to some of those songs.
Mhm.
That's some good stuff. That's fun. That's
Yeah.
just just kick back, and they're pretty creative.
It's probably cool. That's a neat aspect of, getting to be around that many musicians at one time, especially when Pat Green shows up there. It seems like all you guys really, when y'all get around each other, like everybody
There's
up there
a
seems to
tight
love
knit
Pat.
group, and Pat. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet him very early. I think he was still in college when he got with him, but
Mhm.
you're talking about funny guys, the Reckless Kelly guys. Geez, that whole family.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got to hang out with a couple of them. Whatever the spot is on top of the mountain, you ride the gondola up.
Oh, the Thunderhead. Yeah.
Thunderhead. Yeah, yeah. I hung out with some of them guys up there.
Well, and then if you meet the parents, Muzzy and Joanne, you know where it comes from. Just really wonderful people, but
Right.
funny.
Yeah.
You just want to just stand in the room and just listen to them.
Yeah.
But I've been to their festival. The Braun Brothers reunion. That's a cool festival. It's one of my.
Have you ever thought about making a spot somewhere for like stand up? There's not a lot of Western
You know what?
stand up.
We did do that. We used.
Oh, really?
We had an artist. Well, we didn't do it in public. We did some roast. We had a artist lounge
Oh, that's
in
funny.
Steamboat, and it was kind of like it was just for the artists and
Yeah.
whatever. And we did some roast in there and some stuff. And I'll tell you what, it was. I know there's some recordings of it, but I don't think they can release it.
Golly, that'd be
It's-
funny.
It was, it beyond funny. It was your sides hurt, and I was like, man, there were some pretty good jabs going on, but funny. And that's where it comes out when you had 15, 20 musicians get up there, were roasting somebody, and to hear and you're like, oh man, this person's really funny, including
Yeah.
the ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, the ladies are just they can come up with some pretty good stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Dang. So, did you just came off of, no, Costa Rica's next year.
Costa Rica's next year. We just did the big Cabo Fest.
Okay.
And so we did that. That was, that's, again, Cabo's an incredible place. We'll go back, but we're going to go do Costa Rica for a couple
Are you
years.
putting on a lot of other shows these days outside of those two, just mainly?
No, I used to do a lot of those shows, and now a lot of people are doing it, and I'm not out to hit the pavement as much
You
as
got
I
the
used
brand
to.
with the two.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, if I consult a little bit on one-off shows and stuff like that, and our staff goes out and helps out people wherever they need it. But I like to spend a little time at the ranch and hanging out with the cows and all that kind of stuff now. And I still love going to the shows and checking out new music.
Do you have you always been into, you and I sometimes get to visiting about real estate and like rentals. Have you always been into that, or is that kind of a newer thing?
No, that happened when I first got married, and me and a buddy, we were trying to figure out, okay, if we're going to have kids, how we're going to pay for their college. He says, well, I'm going to go do that 529 deal through the government and start putting money in that. And I said, well, I'm going to go buy I can do some handiwork stuff. So I'm going to go buy a piece of junk. Yeah. And so I went and Rob and I mortgaged our life away and bought the first home, and we all, we got in there and did all the work on it and got that going. I'm like, well, I kind of like this because once you get it paid for, and it was, it was a pretty rough house, but I still own that first house that I got.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
In San Marcos?
In Buda.
Where's that?
Buda. That's let's say 20 miles south of Austin. It used to be 20 miles south of Austin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can picture.
Everybody knows where it is because we got there's a Cabela's in the front yard. I call it our convenience store right there on 35. But we're off the highway. I mean, I live out, if everybody knows where the Salt Lick is, I live out in that direct Driftwood.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's where I invested in that. And so
imagine that part of the world. Maybe the Cabela's probably wasn't there when you started with that house.
There's a guy out there that had some good old Black Angus cows I used to admire quite a bit.
Right, rather than the Cabela's. Yeah.
It wasn't. It was. There was really nothing there except for a truck stop. And then, like I said, it's changed quite a bit. But as far as the rent house or the real estate deal, it was a good place to. I had no idea, and I got to say I was pretty lucky with that.
Well, at least it's a Cabela's and not like a Dillard's.
Well, that's
J.C. Penney's.
I'd go down to the city council meetings, and people were, they were bringing it up, and they says, "Oh, we don't want a Cabela's." And I'm, well, heck yeah, you do. You want a Cabela's because you don't want to have a Dillard's out in the front
or a Dollar General.
Well, now it's all there.
Golly.
I mean, it's all grown up out there, but what's cool about that area is all that big box stuff is out on the highway. Once you get into Old Town Buda, you got a historic. They've done a real good job of keeping it the old school town and the historic stuff. So
I like when towns do that. They get a little bit of a theme going, and like if maybe Marble Falls, they do like the Rock, and even like a Whataburger will have like what's it called, wainscot, when it's like rock up to waist high, and then it'll transition to either metal or wood, whatever the building's made of. But they all got that waist high rock that comes up. Like I want to say it's Marble Falls that does that, and there's even the Whataburger has like really nice white rock, and it's just like you got a little bit of a theme throughout the town. I don't know if Dollar General would do that though. They'd probably put their foot down. They like to put more like in the middle of like a trailer park. That's kind of Dollar General.
Well, it's pretty interesting. They're out in the middle of nowhere. You be driving for a few miles out in the country. Next thing, a Dollar General's sticking up.
Yeah, I saw a deal the other day. It said they'll put a Dollar General up your ass if you let them. But anyways, a Cabela's, that would be cool. I would let them put a Cabela's in my backyard.
It is. I call it our local convenience store
because you go down there and get a gun.
And, even when but somebody wants to have a meeting, I said, well, let's meet at Cabela's.
Yeah,
they have some
grab a 9mm.
Yeah,
have a meeting, then look at the fish.
It is an attraction. I mean, it's a pretty neat store to see.
Yes,
I was actually there yesterday. I'll take the dog and go walk through it. I don't have to buy. It was real bad at first because you had to buy everything.
You felt like you were.
No, you just wanted to have everything.
Yeah.
And now I can walk through there and I don't have to buy something.
Right.
But I usually do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard not to. Like you don't realize how much you need until you're in there staring at all the things and like.
Yeah, you need it. You definitely need it. You can't live without it.
Right.
Hey, Brotator Chip. If you like getting swole-o-matic, then get yourself some Protein on mountainops.com. Hey, or if you just like being healthy, whether you're trying to bulk up, get healthy, have energy, go to mountainops.com and use code Kevin for 20% off. Rock and roll denim is what Dale Brisby uses to spur his bucking bulls. I get the reflex. Gives me the mobility I need to be the cowboy I am. So go to rockandrolldenim.com, old son.
That's super neat, though, that you got to invest in that area long before that was even around.
Well, you and I talk about it, and there's a little strategy to do it. One thing I do like doing is getting older homes and preserving them, because there were some homes that I bought that were set to be torn down, and it's not the best investment strategy. But I retained some homes that were going to be torn down. I'm like, no, we got to bring this back to life because this is part of the community and part of the deal. So I was I didn't know, when it took me a year and a half, it didn't make any sense when you're remodeling a house for a year and a half, but that's not too smart. But on the backside of it, it was pretty smart now that I see it.
Yeah. Somebody told me once, you can improve the house, you can't improve the neighborhood.
Yep.
And so you go into a spot and you're like, all right, this house is run down, but it's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, we got the historic area, and I've invested a lot of, some homes in there. So, and just retaining the, not redoing the outside of them. Now we may, and of course, you go in some of these houses and somebody put laminate all over the floor, and I'll go lift up that laminate, and there's that
awesome
oak,
hardwood.
That awesome hardwood, and you bring that back to life. I'm like, that's what it's all about. Or they,
right.
I guess they hit them in the 50s or 60s and started putting that plastic siding on it. And you take that off, and there's this beautiful wood behind it.
It seems like a lot of people get burned whenever they go to flipping a house. But I feel like if you are playing the long game, that's when it's really a win.
Flipping's that's a different deal.
Yeah. You didn't even use that word. Yeah, that's okay.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't flip
I'm
houses.
buying it for the long haul.
Yes, sir.
And and it's.
Did you feel tempted? What was it? Was it 2021 or 2022? Whenever like real estate just shot up, did you feel tempted to get out of the game?
Yes, I did.
You did.
Well, and I knew a guy that way beyond anything I do. He sold everything. I'm like,
really?
I was mind-boggling. He owned some nice homes. I don't have the homes he did, but he unloaded everything. I'm like, and now in hindsight, I look back at it. Well, that guy, he
owns kind of house like Dale Brisby might live in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Gotcha.
So,
but
yeah. So no,
how does he feel? Is he like wishing he'd have kept him, or do you know?
No, he's back and buying other stuff. But he says he knew that, I guess he knew that it was going to drop or go flat. But
calm back down.
Yeah. But he's big Will. That's what he does for a living.
Okay.
This is kind of a side project.
It was such a unique thing. Interest rates were, people were borrowing money for 3%, and you could just go buy anything, and then all of a sudden supply chain issues, and now all of a sudden the house you just bought for $80,000 at 4%, interest rate, now you can sell that same house for $182 and make $100,000. But then the interest rates came up, and anyway, but it doesn't seem like the cost of supplies has changed. That's stayed up, but
it's gone way up. Yeah,
yeah.
But it's to that point, I just remember when that hit, especially in our area, because Austin area, that corridor between Austin and San Antonio is a hot area.
Yes,
Bronzeville's and all that, and when that happened, there were people buying houses for cash. The tract homes that were $300,000, buying them for $600,000, $800,000, and I'm like, what is going on here? I couldn't figure that out, because it doesn't change. It's still a $300,000 home. That's a nice home, but it's not $800,000 worth of the way it's built out and appliances that are in it. But they bought them for that, and in cash. Now, people.
Did you have a lot of Californians coming in?
I think we had some come in. I think they're moving out now.
Yeah,
I think it was a trend. It was a happening deal, but the area is still it now. I'll say this: when I first moved out there, I think there was only about 700 people in the community. Now we're at 30,000, but it's spread out. It's really spread out, but it's different.
Yeah, we had some come in, but like you said, I think some of them turned around and left, but back to Musicfest. Man, what advice do you have for somebody that is looking to, I guess, accomplish this thing of turning something they enjoy into their job?
Well, the key is what you just said, is you enjoy it. That's what it's all about.
Step one.
No, you have to enjoy what you're doing and have to have a passion for it. And it's not about the money. Don't chase the dollar. Do it for what you love to do. I mean, you have to have to survive, but
that's what we were doing with YouTube. I didn't make any money doing that the first however many videos. I didn't even realize you could make money on YouTube, even though we were uploading to it.
Yeah.
And then eventually we were like, oh, dang.
Well, I can tell you enjoy this because your interviews are great. You have some great guests on there, and you do a good job, really good job. But
Well,
you
I
can tell it's
appreciate
not. Well, it's not like a job. You're not walking in
Yes,
here and
sir.
it's a gig.
Right.
Job. You have fun doing this, and I know you have some pretty entertaining guests. And I was listening to your interview with Joe Rogan.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
To have two interviewers interviewing each other because
Yeah.
that was a good interview. The only thing I caught on that was, Rogan, he kind of drops the F-bomb quite a bit. And I don't think I've ever heard you cuss one time. I think I've heard you say golly or gosh darn one time. But,
Yeah, right.
but I was like, this is funny.
Yeah.
Because just to hear the transition, but the way y'all spoke with each other and the dialogue and man, that was a good interview. That was good.
I appreciate that. And I think the thing about him is it's crazy how many people in my industry message me afterwards and asking what marketing firm I went through to get on there.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, you don't think because Joe Rogan, he picks his guests.
Yep.
And I respect that because I do the same thing. Like I interview people I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. And I was like, no, I didn't, lobby for it. He just messaged me. And
he's clearly a fan of yours. I mean, you could tell through that interview, and that was funny, both of y'all. And I could tell you had, I don't know, there was a good connection there. But it was, two professionals, but it was also just natural as it could be.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
y'all did a great job. So
yeah, it went long. Like it is 3.5 hours. It was.
yeah, I haven't listened to the whole thing because I didn't.
It was a long interview, meaning like.
But that tells you. I mean, that's
Yes, sir.
y'all were having a good time.
But I had already been doing that as a podcast host. I'm interested in someone, but after him and hearing how he explained how he picks guests, it really made me lean into it. Meaning, like, I have this series within my podcast called Texas Cowpunchers, and the only reason it's specific to Texas is that's where all my cowpuncher friends live.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't mind an Oklahoma cowpuncher, but regardless, I call the series Texas Cowpunchers, and it's essentially like a lot of these cowboys that are, they work cowboys, and they don't even have social media. And so but I'm interested in their story.
Yeah.
And so it may not be a podcast that's going to, do a collab like maybe Morgan Wallen have on, who I'm also interested in. I would like to visit with him. But regardless, the point is just like that would obviously be bigger for me than it would be Morgan. But I'd like to talk to, Cody Bones Taylor on there, who, doesn't have Instagram, but he's punched cows his whole life.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be just a really enjoyable for you as a person
For
to get to know
sure.
these people. And then I'm sure you get to find out more about them. In an interview, you get to ask more questions instead of just shooting the bull with them.
Mm-hmm.
You get to ask them questions and it's
Correct.
expected. And then you probably see some sides of these people you didn't even know existed, whether they're
Yes.
funny as they get or heck, they might be some scholar in something you had no idea,
Yes, sir.
whatever it is. But
And that sounds like, man, it's sounds like what you did with Musicfest. Like, I mean, like that's how you picked Shane. Just like you're sitting around a campfire.
well,
It's like
yeah.
you're giving him the opportunity at that point. It's he probably hadn't cut too many albums, but
yeah.
but that's neat to me too. And I guess that's what's cool about Musicfest is it's taking your interest and yeah, I mean, going back to the original question, how do you make money doing what you love? Well, you loved it.
Yeah.
And So the Shane Smith style music you enjoyed, and that's what's made the festival so good. I guess I'm just kind of analyzing, but
Well,
that's interesting
and
though,
you know,
thinking about,
one
because
other,
if you were angling for, you're just trying to make the most money you can with the biggest festival ever, well, then you might be hiring acts based on what they could bring to the table. But that's not the case. You know, you like good music,
yeah.
and if you enjoy this music, you want to put it in your lineup.
Well, I'll say this:
I don't know if there's
there's a
something
couple
to
of
that.
times I was ready to throw in the towel on this thing because it was not making money, and I had other jobs for about 15 years, and just to try to keep this. But I loved doing it. I just kept doing it. You know, one thing is I love the music. I also like being a part of getting people together and having a good time. I mean, there's some, you know, you get to get on the stages. You're going to introduce Shane tonight, and you're going to look at 50,000 people, and they're just having a good time. You know,
Mhm.
escaping wherever they're coming from, and they're getting to, you know, share that moment. And if you had a little piece to do with that, I can't
Mhm.
imagine how these musicians feel on the stage every night or, you know, every time. I'm like, that's got to be, and you know, it's a high or whatever you want to call it, but it's to give people a break and have a good time. And if I had a little bit to do with that,
Yeah,
that's a
that
good
is
feeling.
neat. Yeah. And, you know, you took 15 years and now you finally are able to make money at it. Like, I think the beauty in that is, and I feel like people always might lean towards or, you know, like you get to enjoy it and you get to make money, you know, and a lot of times, like when people are going back to my question of like, how do you nail down that thing? And you're saying, well, you got to enjoy it first.
Yeah.
And that's what same thing with me. I guess somebody watching my videos, when they see me gathering bulls on a bull, they might think I'm doing that for money. And it's not an or thing.
Or they're going
It's an
like,
and
or they're
thing.
going like, why is he doing that?
It's like, yeah, it's going to make a good video, and maybe on this YouTube video, I'll make $432.
I don't think I've ever.
But it's, and I enjoy doing this, and I get to.
I don't think I've ever looked at a bull and thought, "Well, I sure would like to get on the back of him and go round up some other bulls." I just never. That's pretty good. That's pretty creative.
Well, it didn't start that way.
Well,
You know,
no, it never starts that way.
You know, it was more just like, I think I can ride this bull with the saddle, and then I could. I ride him a couple times, and then it's like, I think I can gather those cows, and but the cows were actually Mexican fighting heifers, and so that added a little.
Yeah,
But that's the. I mean, I grew up on the bucking stock end of the arena.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. No offense to Timies, but I didn't grow up team roping. I grew up riding bulls, fighting bulls. You know, getting on bareback horses, broncs. Like that was what my dad did. That's what I wanted to do. And so, like, I just want to put my little twist on a normal situation.
That's
How
a
can
good-
we make this a little more fun?
That's a good twist.
And but yeah, and I'm a YouTuber, so that gets to be my job. I think that's what people should look for, and not or.
Yeah. Well, and like any job, there is the work side to it. It's not all, you know.
For sure.
you
Yes,
know,
sir.
You know that better
For
than anybody
sure.
else. It's fun until it's not, but it's
Well,
there-
for me, it's when the camera's on, that means we're having fun.
Yeah.
That's when and then when the camera's turning off is usually when the work starts.
yeah, before and after.
And I'm sure that
And
that
then-
might be how it is with Musicfest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, it's a big event. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. You know, we'll have people come in the office, new people we hire, or whatever, and hey, here's what this, and they're like, oh wow, we didn't know this. Well, I like to pay attention to detail, you know, because I want to treat people that come on the festival like I'd like to be treated, and there's a lot of detail in that.
It's just such a unique event because, and I can see how your history of promoting events in college and then putting on concerts in college towns, and then it grew. So now you're going to move this system you've created and take it to a mountain in another state. And so you had all this experience, because I was about to ask, when did you start incorporating sponsors? But you probably knew that from the beginning because you'd already been putting on events. Or
Yeah, in my college days, I didn't realize what an impact an event can have on a sponsor. I know I was doing a series in San Marcos, and Dos Equis hadn't even been introduced, and they came to me and says, "Hey, we want to sponsor your event." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. What do I get?" Well, you get a bunch of beer. I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." That's all I want. That's all I didn't need much at that time.
Joke's on you. I'd have taken less.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, and it was a summer event. And by the end of the summer, that was the number one beer in the whole community because of this one event.
Right.
I'm like, oh, we do have an impact on this. So I kind of got an idea
of your value.
Well, not only that, and then you start seeing where, when you see Michael Jordan is sponsored something, he said, oh, I get this now because people want to follow that and I get it. But I mean, not compare myself to Michael Jordan by any means, but I've just, there's something to be said about, and then the sponsors that wanted to align with this music, they kind of found me. I didn't go out and search for people because either you get this music or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that want to be a part of it, and it's pretty smart because this is a loyal community that follows this music, and to have sponsors involved was, but it's this community of people that really are involved with this music. Mm-hmm. They're not just, they love this music.
Just like you. I mean, that's the whole thing it seems like, did you know, or did you plan on the skiing being a factor in the negotiations? Like, meaning like you'd have, for instance, myself or any musicians or people like, I'll come do that show. I love to ski.
Well, with the artist, not everybody was skiers or whatever. There's some that were up at 8 o'clock in the morning, blew me away. You leave them at the condo at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and they're on the mountain at 8 o'clock. Like, but it's part of the adventure and also being on those mountains up in Colorado. I mean, that's just, whether you have skis on your feet or you don't, it's just a magical deal. And the one thing I loved about Steamboat, because the Musicfest was not always in Steamboat. It toured around the first, 8 or 10 years. But once we went to Steamboat, I'm like, oh, this is a multi-generational ranching community. Mm. And, they got a really incredible rodeo they do every summer there that everybody hits. I mean, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You go through Steamboat. And but the people there, you have a lot of ski resorts are a ski resort first. This was a ranching community first. And, you can go out to some of these for activities. They'll have some dinners they do or tubing or stuff like that out there. They got into the tourism thing because it helps the ranches out through the winter when it's usually pretty, not much going on. Mm-hmm. And, but, it just has that character and that community, which is really a cool part of, Musicfest. But the skiing part, anybody likes to get up on skis. And I mean, you snowboard and everybody that skis, it's exhilarating. And then if you don't ski, you go snowboarding or you go, there's one time I heard they had a dog sledding group out there. And I'm like, I told, Robin and the girl, I said, hey, let's go try this. We like dogs. And I said, let's go see what this is about. That's one of the most incredible experiences. I didn't know what to expect, but we had the time of our life.
Oh, that's neat.
It is neat. I mean, who in Texas is going to go, get behind 8 or 10 dogs and, when you say mush, you better hang on. There's some horsepower in that.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people give Texans a hard time about, for instance, the ice when we have to deal with it, but we just live in a different world, like you might as well, like, I'm sure people in Steamboat, they would have a hard time if you put a bunch of lava on the asphalt, like they wouldn't be able to drive in that either. Just like we don't have dog sledding in Texas. Like that's just not a thing. There's some good cur dogs that chase down and bay up a pig maybe, but they're not going to pull a sled. I think a cur dog would have a hard time pulling a sled. They get too cold. Anyway.
Well, talking about that snow is like the first year I did, the first trip I did, the first Musicfest was 1986 and we went to Crested Butte and I had sold a bunch of trips. I said, I'd answer an ad in the school paper and you get free trips if you sell so many. So I had a couple extra trips. And so I asked my musician buddy, I said, hey, come on up, but y'all have to perform. And I told the ski resort, I said, hey, I like that deck you have on the back of that place that overlooks the mountain. I said, we're going to put the band out there. They said, nobody does that during the middle of winter. I said, well, that's kind of what we do in Texas. We do stuff outside. And I had no idea. I really didn't.
How cold it was going to be?
I didn't know. I was like, it can't be that bad. Well, I remember it was just, and it was an uncovered porch, but they were playing to the mountain, but it was snowing so hard that the guitar player was getting these light shocks and there was a saxophone player actually, and his lips were getting frozen to the reed. And I was looking, I'm like, you guys all right? He says, we're having a blast. And they were
Right.
playing music to the people skiing down the mountain. And of course, the locals were like, yeah, nobody does this. And it is we did that for about 5 years in a row through different resorts. And people really thought I was crazy. And I'm like, no, it's fun. It's a deal. And now there's a big outdoor stage in Steamboat. They got a beautiful outdoor stage.
Yeah, but you do it in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So it's
well,
not.
yeah,
It's
you
not
do. Yeah,
as
no, it's not a
cold.
nighttime gig.
Yeah.
No, you know.
You did know that.
But,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. You got my wheels spinning here, but no, I wouldn't do a nighttime deal. You get 25 degrees and no humidity. It's not that bad. As you know,
Yeah.
you've been up there and you probably skied in short sleeves on a.
It's a dry cold.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and say it's not cold, but it's not cold.
It is different than, I'll say, like January wheat pasture cold. You just can't get on enough layers in
Yeah.
Texas when you're
Yeah.
doctoring wheat pasture cattle, and then the wind just like just cut down to the bone. When my dad died, when we buried him in long johns, because like he would wear long handles, not just long johns. He had on
Yeah.
denim, his Canadian tuxedo. He'd have on the 13 MWZs and then a chambray pearl snap, but under that he had on long johns.
Yeah.
Because he was so cold all year round. I remember me and my brother went into the funeral home, and it was a good friend of his that prepared him, whatever. And he was like, "Yeah, I got the long johns, just like you said, but we couldn't get his boots on him." And we were like, "Oh, that's
Jeez.
funny. Surely you're." And he was like, "No, I'm serious. Like, I got his boots." And they're like, "Oh," me and my brother were like, "Oh, no, that's not gonna work." And we opened the casket because his foot was too stiff. He couldn't put his boots on him. And I was like, no, we're not burying this man without these boots on. And so we took his bronc riding boots and we cut the back of them all the way down to the shelf of the heel.
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, it's not perfect, but they're on him. And anyways, the funeral director, he was like, all right, I guess. I was like, no, this is a must. Like, we can bury him naked, but he's got to have these boots on. And but anyway, the point is, long handles. He would be so cold. I mean, he would take his long handles off for like July and August, and then the other 10 months he'd be wearing them because he would just, like, when he got cold, he made it sound like it was flashbacks to war. But he would like just have flashback to running wheat pasture cattle where he'd get cold from that wind. I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, I gotta ask, have y'all ever heard that story before? I'm just like, that's just as real as it gets.
That's
You're
a real
laying
story.
it out there. That's
that was,
you're asking me if I got any stories. I'm like, no, I don't have any stories. I have nothing. That's quite a tribute to your father. God bless him. But
yeah,
that's a good story. But
that whole day
I was glad I got to hear that.
Yeah, the whole day
really
was wild. He died at Helotes down by. He was picking up at a rodeo, and he went to the mortuary after the hospital, and then when we picked him up from the mortuary, nobody else moved him unless it was me and my brother until so he went to Amarillo. That's where his friend was, prepared him. And we're driving, and we drove all night, picked him up in San Antonio, and then we drove all night up, and we made a few stops at some old spots and got a milkshake. He was in the back of the truck. They'll just let you take a dead body, by the way.
I didn't
Isn't
know
that wild? Yeah.
I didn't
He's
know
got
that.
a milkshake. He loved milkshakes. I think it's what killed him. But anyway, we just like threw it in the back. And so by the time we got there, there's a milkshake on it. But we were driving on 287, and Amarillo by Morning came on, and he's in the video. He was riding in Houston in that video. There's two bareback riders, and he's the one that doesn't get hung up. One guy, which I met his daughter once, and she was like, "You always say that, but that was my dad." But anyways, I feel bad for him. He gets hung up. My dad's the other one with the brown vest on, and so that was a cool moment. Me and my brother pulling up to Amarillo, 6 a.m, sun's coming up, and that song comes on, and it's always meant a lot to us. And we just looked at each other, we just died laughing. And anyways, that was a neat moment. We pulled up and then fell asleep in the parking lot at the funeral home service, and then we went in, and he said that about the boots. We're like, no, prop that thing open. Let's put them on him. But that was a wild couple of days.
That's a story. It's not a story. That's beyond a story.
Well,
I don't know. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast, but the Emerald by Morning thing I have, Donnie makes fun of me. He heard that about 4 times, and anytime the song comes on, he's like, "Hey, everybody!" It's like, "Shut up, Donnie."
It's a good tune.
But so who? I'm just curious. Like, I just know your Rolodex, your
I still have a Rolodex.
is just full of just. I mean, you've probably got to hang out with George Strait. Even you probably got all these people that you've got to meet. And
You know, one of the ways I got through college was bartending at the Grist Mill in Green Hall.
you know George Strait, and it doesn't even have anything to do with these festivals.
Well, he lived in San Marcos. He lived in San Marcos at the time, and he played at Cheatham Street, and he played at Green Hall. And I just remember that was one time I'd asked the boss. I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "I'll bartend, but not all night when George Strait's playing, because that's the night you want to be on the dance floor and be out front."
Yeah.
And I just remember watching this guy, and I hadn't produced an event at that point or anything. I mean, I was pretty young, and I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, this guy's incredible. Why is he not playing arenas? Why is he not, bigger than life? And he played there about every 2-3 weeks. And and that was before Green Hall was a tourist attraction.
And before Pure Country, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this was before his first album and everything. And,
Right.
And it was really where the cowboys and cowgirls came to town. And it was cowboy country, that new.
Oh, yeah. I
Brazos
love
area.
Green Hall.
Yeah. But it was truly
They're not much for spelling, but I do like the facility.
the town's got an incredible history and so forth, everything. But it was,
So did you get to meet him?
yeah. I've met Strait. And I know, when they were in San Marcos, it was, they were around quite a bit, but yeah, we weren't running around. He's a few years older than me. He went to school there, and but it was fun to watch that. Irv Woosley, his manager, was from San Marcos and had a bar there, and we kind of watched this. Kent Finley, who on Cheatham Street, kind of took George under his wing and took him to Nashville to introduce some people. It was neat to watch this. We had no idea of what was getting ready to happen.
Who was the guy that wrote all the songs for him? The long hair guy who wrote Oceanfront Property?
Dean
Dillon.
Yeah.
They were going to make a movie about him.
Well, they did a documentary. Yeah, that's a good.
They did a documentary.
Yeah.
Then they were going to make a movie about him, and they wanted me to play in the movie. Remember that? And because I watched the documentary, I had not seen it.
Ah.
And they were like, "Can you play guitar?" They were like asking me all these questions. You got long hair? I was like, "Yeah." Like, can you? Who do they want me to be? Not Waylon. But anyway, when we got to the last of the questions, they were like, "Can you play guitar?" I was like, "No." And they were like, "Okay, well, maybe we can work around it. Can you learn?" I was like, "Yes."
There you go.
But I mean, I hadn't even picked one up, but I was like, "Absolutely.
Sure.
I will know by the time they hit record."
I can see you being in a movie like that.
Yeah. Well, they just think I look like somebody that's been on the sofa circuit,
Well, yeah,
I
I
guess-
can see that.
But
Yeah.
um,
But Dean Dillon, yeah, that guy's incredible. He's an incredible
George
writer.
listens to the podcast.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
But he won't go on it.
Well,
I don't know why. I'd put him on the map. This would do a lot of good for his
you would,
music.
You would help him out a lot,
Right?
Yeah, I think you would. George is incredible, and he's very. I don't know. That's part of the Texas DNA, and he
seems like a lot of people say he's like a super nice guy.
Well, I haven't. Like I said, I didn't hang out with him. I've met him a couple
You just got to meet
times,
him,
but
yeah.
you can ask a couple of musicians that hang out with him. But I heard he's a great guy, and he's the real deal.
Who else on that? Just through all you said Willie Nelson.
Yeah, that was interesting working with Willie. That was on 6th Street in Austin. I remember him bringing the bus in the opposite direction of the traffic, and of course they let him do it. But I just remember, and he just pulled up the curb right outside the bar, and they said, "Hey, can you bring a bottle of tequila on the bus?" I'm like, "Well, we're not supposed to do that, but yeah, I'll get one to you from the bar." I took one, and there's Willie and Lyle Lovett and whoever else. I mean, it was kind of I'm like, okay. And it was kind of a weird deal because I was pretty young at the time. And, is it either Pootie or Lovey is one of the, his tour manager or whatever. Those guys were characters. It was a really an enjoyable experience.
Did you know it was like a significant moment when you were standing there?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the coolest moments was I was just standing there and I'm watching. Well, then this is Merle Haggard. And Merle Haggard. We had Merle Haggard there. I'm like, yeah, these are snippets. Yeah, these are like. I'm like, why are I'm putting these guys in a small venue? But this is when radio was not paying attention to these guys, and kind of put them off to the side. I said, well, I'm gonna
Right.
put them in these bars, and I just remember standing there, and this place was it was just a bar on 6th Street. It was nothing fancy. There was a, and I'm standing there, and I kind of look down. I look down. There's a guy standing next to me. His blue jeans and just these big legs. And I look up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Earl Campbell. And I grew up in Houston, and I'm like, this guy. Now I'm like, oh, this is cool, and and he just nice, and he's singing along to all Merle's songs, and I'm like, well, this may be the coolest moment I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And watching Merle Haggard, and then Merle asked Earl to come up on the stage to sing a song with him, Mama Tried or something like that. And of course, Earl can't carry a tune, but who cares? It was one of the coolest thing. And if anybody's listening to this that was there, I know there was a big, that was back in the day when you had the big cam recorders or whatever. There was somebody out in that crowd recording.
You've been looking for them.
I've just
for since then.
Man, I would love to see that because it was just such a neat moment. But for me personally, first Merle Haggard's there,
right,
and then second of all Earl Campbell, which I was, Love You Blue days. I was, I was a kid when watching all that, and he was just. So that was neat stuff. But Willie and those guys getting to meet those people in that sense. And
I had one of those video cameras. I wish I could get back. I was in Corpus Christi. My dad was an ag teacher, so I was in the FFA, and I was a state officer. We were in Corpus at the Ag Teachers Convention, and I was like, those hotels on the seawall.
Yeah.
And then there's the what's it called? The road that goes next to it's like hotel, road, the sea.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I was like on the 14th floor, and I had this, and I was like playing with the zooming in and out. And my dad had come down there to the Ag Teachers Convention, and they always team rope, and but he also he brought his horses, but he also brought his motorcycle. He went through a midlife crisis, long story, but he had this 1979 shovelhead lowrider Harley Davidson.
Nice.
And I regret selling it so much. But anyway, he came down that seawall on that bike, and I was with it, and it was so loud. And he was but he had on his boots, spurs, 13 MWZs, had on a chambray shirt and his cowboy hat, and it was pulled down where his ears, because that's just how he wore it. And he came down that seawall just like riding his bike, and it was the most cool thing I had ever seen, like that involving maybe cooler than the only thing could maybe that he was in Amarillo by morning, but it was I can't find that camcorder.
That's you set up a good picture there. That's pretty cool.
Man, I was on the balcony and I was playing with that video camera. I'd been recording all summer, and that was one of those.
You did catch it? You got it on?
Yeah, I got it, but I don't have the camera. Oh. Yeah, so I got it recorded. Watched it back on there, but I don't know where the camera is. Like it was before iPhones. Yeah, it would have been before iPhones, but it was a neat moment seeing him pull through that. But what were we talking? Oh, so you need your camcorder of you and Earl Campbell singing "Mama Tried."
Well, I wasn't up there. Just it was Earl and Merle.
Would you have been in the video?
Yeah, I was standing right to the side of the stage.
Gotcha.
Like I said, there wasn't a backstage. It was just like I said, a bar out in the open. But like I said,
we should even Google it because that's like you could just probably put their names in there's probably not a lot of footage of them two together. It might be on YouTube.
I don't know. I just remember that big, and somebody was always there with somebody was always filming these shows because somebody recognized, when we were doing, Jerry Jeff and all that, there's always somebody had one of those cameras, and there was no rules back in the day. Now you can't, let anybody record anything, but everybody kind of did it. The guy, back then that was a big old piece of equipment you had to put on your shoulder, and
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
You excited about this year, Musicfest?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, well, 40th is kind of it hadn't hit home yet, but I feel it. I'm like, wow, I've been really fortunate to be around this and all these stories I get to share with you. And, I could sit here for a long time. And as you're asking me questions, I'm like, oh, there's this moment. There's a lot more I could talk about, but it's just the experience I've had, the people I've gotten to meet that have I have friends for life that I've met up there that
Right.
all over, and so it'll be pretty special. But yeah, and there's always the great new music, or always the
Mhm.
artists. It's a reunion, and get to see a lot of good people.
Have you released the lineup yet?
No, we haven't.
No.
No.
I mean, are those figured out yet, and you just hadn't released
Yeah,
it, or you're
yeah.
still
I
kind of
usually wait until we get 95% of them all booked before we release it. It's not like I don't want to be up against a timeline to try to book these artists. I want to let it happen over time, and that's part of the. People ask about how do you book these artists and stuff, and it takes if you do it all, try to do it in 1 month's time, well, you're missing a lot. When you do it over this time, and talking to some of the artists, hey, who do you want to perform with, or yeah, there's just so many different dynamics to it to get it all together and make sure that okay, this one night in this venue, we're going to have this set of artists, and they have to kind of complement each other in their styles of music and whatever else. But you brought up Dean Dillon. I've got Dean Dillon and Paul Overstreet that are going to perform together, and
Oh, cool.
well, and those two guys have penned songs that just iconic songs that are part of our life history. I mean, this, and so I said, and Paul Overstreet played in Cabo, and I was talking with him, and he's Keith Whitley songs, and he's just got this unbelievable roster of songs he sang, and I was like, man, you just played all the songs that. It brought on a lot of good times. I said, well, Dean Dillon. He said, oh, yeah. I said, have y'all ever performed together? He says, and I don't think they had. I'm like, would you mind if I try to get y'all together on a stage up there in Steamboat? He goes, absolutely. And Dean's played the festival before. I said, well, how about y'all getting on the stage?
Yeah.
So, and they're both pretty funny guys.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, this is going to be, you talk about comedy. You're going to have a comedy act, and you're going to hear some of the best songs
That's
ever recorded.
Best. Yeah.
So you're going to hear and stories that nobody's heard because they're going to bring them out each.
Yeah, because if you're there for the music, then you love those artists.
Yeah.
They've been around for so long, so it's natural that you're only going to love a backstory to a song.
Yeah.
Like that's the coolest. Like hearing Jason Eady, I don't think it was the Railhead, but it was something up the mountain. Maybe that deal around the corner. But hearing him tell the backstory of like Cody Jinks and him playing at the Stockyards every Tuesday or Wednesday, they would go play, and it's Jason Eady and Cody Jinks, and there's sometimes nobody in there listening.
Yeah, yeah.
And like listening to that kind of backstory is just, I don't know. I remember it now, like except for his name, of course. Like I do the music, and that's a neat aspect to getting to hear those shows, is getting to hear the story behind it. But
and Jason said, it's funny you bring that up. I used to produce a magazine back when people read paper, but we would had a section that called Your Other Gig. And so I asked Jason, I said, what'd you do before you got into music? Well, he's in the military. I said, what'd you do? Arabic translator. I'm like, what?
dang.
I said, well, what did you do? He says, well, we flew over these certain countries, and I was picking up all their their military stuff, and I was, translating it to the U.S. government. And I said, well, what kind of story? He said, well, he says, I'd have to kill you if I, told you. But, who knew?
Right.
This guy speaks Arabic and was a translator that was picking up secret codes and this and that. And,
right.
Incredible. Jason's got a lot of good stories.
Yeah. With social media these days, and how like some artists have like they pop up a little quicker than normal. Does that do you feel that when you deal with younger artists now with Musicfest? Does that play a role in how you book gigs?
No, I'm not paying. No, because I mean, there's several artists that played Musicfest last year that are now playing arenas and whatever else, but it happened such a short time frame through what we call the TikTok thing, and they're truly talented musicians, but to be able to go into a state they've never stepped into, and they've got 1,000 people in front of them that paid $30 or $40, that's a different thing. I don't know how that's going to play out. Again, these kids they're talented as they can be, and there's
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't know how to play out?
When you hit that kind of popularity that quick, when you're sleeping on couches and driving around your car and whatever else, the next thing you're in 2 buses in 3 months. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And those that's got to be a culture shock to those kids.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not normal.
Yep.
And gaining one fan at a time is the way a lot of these artists did it. I call it one fan at a time. They're out there, like I said, couch surfing and doing whatever they can to stay on the road. And these guys, all of a sudden, they just hit in. Their talent's there, but this is a weird thing. I don't know how that's going to play out. I've been around music a long time, but and I've seen that happen. There was back in the 90s where we call it I don't want to compare these guys to this or these ladies to this, but the flavor of the month. And when we see a band just hit it real big and then of course drop. Now that was a different deal, different scene, but these guys have the talent to stay on top, but it's just like such a weird deal for them to hit
it
so
seems
fast.
like it could be a culture shock. Like if you're not careful, like, a young kid with that much money, that fast, that much
a lot of things
fame,
out
like,
there.
man, if they can't handle it, they burn themselves up pretty quick.
I think they'll, hopefully if they got some good people around them, to just, that's the key is if you surround yourself with some good people that keep you focused. I mean, enjoy the moment for sure, but hey, this is not normal. And now you better, concentrate on your craft and keep it up because the expectations are going to be pretty high too.
Yes, sir.
But it's part of the music world now. We'll just see how it plays out. I don't know how it's going to do, but I know that there's some agents I've worked with for years, and they've got one of these artists. Said, "Hey, what's going on here?" He says, "We have no idea, but and they mean well. They're not saying it's bad, but they're just saying this is something different."
Yes, sir.
But social media's been out there for a while, but this is something that just happened in the last 2 years. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this: back in the early or late 90s, I would see trends come in where you see a certain style of music would come up, and it's usually stay popular for 6 or 8 years, and then another trend of music came in. When the Texas music started with these young artists, I'm not talking about Robert Earl and those guys. They were doing their thing, but I was like, okay, here it is. They hit this pinnacle. They're being played on the radio stations and so forth. And all of a sudden, this technology just came into play. So now the radio wasn't telling you what you're going to listen to. You had access to music. And I said, good stuff always rises to the top. And this Texas music came up through that, it never went down. Even though the radio stations may stop playing them, the Texas radio stations, now people had another way to find this music. And people love this. I say Texas music, just this Americana, this stuff that was, people are writing songs not for commercial. They're writing it because it's an experience they had, whether it's a funny song or a song about a girl or vice versa, all that stuff. But sing about real life experiences where it wasn't for 3 minutes and 30 seconds song on the radio. And technology there's the good side of it. This stuff, people can find good music.
It cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
I think the good side of it is, the market gets to decide, not either a label or a radio station gets to decide. I think that's what I believe gave me an edge, because my job didn't exist 20 years ago. I'd have had to go through a network or an agent if I had a talent that I thought. But in 2013, all we had to do was create a YouTube account. Yeah. Shout out to Mitch Montgomery, who created it for me. Good friend of mine. We recorded a video. I'd been doing, a lot of stuff online on Facebook, but nothing. I didn't have a YouTube account yet. And anyhow, but we went straight to the market, and a few people liked our videos, and so we kept making them. But I see on the flip side of that, mine was not a 2 year or a 6 month or a 3 month. We've been making videos for 12 years. And so it's taken a long time to get anybody to watch. But on the flip side of that, if somebody does take the fast track to success, like you said, it could be dangerous if they're not mature, if they don't know.
There's just so much out there. Yeah. But you've done it the way I've seen some of these musicians, one fan at a time type deal. And people found you and then it word of mouth and to like people that like what you do and now that you've been doing this, and how many brought, what, 300, over 300?
Yes. Getting close to 300 podcasts. Yes, sir.
That's a lot.
And then 500 vlogs. Yeah, on that's the thing I've done the most of is, we do the skits. So like we'll do podcasts and then like a vlog is like a 15 or a 20-minute episode of me, for instance, gathering the bulls on the bull. Like that was in a vlog. And so we've done almost 500 of those, but but then the skits are fun too. Like, I don't know if you've seen my 67-year-old rancher, with the belly, like that kind of stuff is.
Now you've figured it out. You've got a great, the thing is that, I just put your craft, what you do. It's all honest. I mean, you got a funny side to it, but there's a reality to it, and it's just like,
well, I
it's
appreciate
who you
that.
are, and it's fun it's entertainment.
I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you letting me partner with Musicfest. It's been a blast, and it's my yearly trip. So, but I appreciate, and then now that we're able to we tote the podcast stuff up there, like. Just get to have more of those conversations. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you coming up there, taking the time to come up there, and I'm glad you get on the mountain and do a little snowboarding.
Oh man,
I'm gonna grab you one night and take you to stay out till 2 or 3 o'clock.
There you go.
If I can do it, you can do this. I know you can.
At least one night I can. I can do it one night. What does he say? I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
That's it.
That's it. Well, you guys check out. Isn't it themusicfest.com?
That's it.
And
musicfest.com.
And then what are we calling the beach fest?
Bigbeachfest.com.
Bigbeachfest.com.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Yeah, check those out. I'm going to have to come down to the beach fest in June. That's oof. I do my noodling trip. I go noodling in June.
All right.
My ex-girlfriend, Hannah Barron, shout out. We just make it work. But anyways, do you know what I'm talking about? Noodling?
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what else do you do?
Yeah, but we'll work it around probably same as you. You got all these little side quests that you've been on.
Well,
like I went backpacking in Costa Rica, so now I'm gonna do a music festival there. But cool.
Yeah. Well, come on down. I think you'd have fun there, and it's a neat place right on the beach, and Costa Rica is, it's a special place. You've been there, I think.
Yes,
before.
sir. Yeah, I went. Yeah,
people are wonderful. I
didn't get to go to the beach. I went for a rodeo. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. It's like there was a few hundred people there, but it was like these different countries battling it out. I got on a bareback horse and a bull, and our college rodeo. Roger Hannegriff, he put together a bunch of college rodeo athletes. We all went down there. I got super car sick driving sitting in the back seat. Oh my gosh, I had to pull over so I could throw up. But yeah, it was like this crazy little, like, nobody spoke English. I think I met a friend there, but like, we weren't, we couldn't speak the same language. But yeah, in Costa Rica, it was crazy because I was like, dang, what if I get hurt on these bucking bulls or horses? But I'd love to go to a beach there one day. But anyway, more side quest stories of Dale Brisby. So,
well, I bet that's good. That's not a normal rodeo. That's
correct.
With those locals down there. They do things a little different.
They do. Yeah. The bulls were great. The horses sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, well, cool deal. Well, thanks for having me. And we're going to go to this Shane Smith concert, and also Ragweed and Turnpike are playing.
I'll be in Wade, and I think American Aquarium. They got quite a show tonight. But no, thank you for taking the time to visit with me and being, letting me talk about the festival. I love talking about it. I don't do this too often, but I figured for the 40th year, I'll tell a few stories behind it. There you go.
Well, maybe we'll follow up again in January. You get time. Do another follow-up podcast.
All right. Thank you.
On to the next one, everybody. Love you guys. Thank y'all for listening.